Hi guys, how's it going? Oh my God, I simply had to respond to the countless emails I received before moving on to the next topic, as to do otherwise would be a complete disservice, and in some ways be a form of shirking my own responsibility to stand by my own personal convictions and perhaps support more clearly the statements I made in yesterday's video. Read the friendship of the Republic of Ireland with the UK. So let's go.
Good Lord, didn't anybody here subscribe?
Before I do that, can I remind you to help the channel by hitting that subscribe and bell notification icon, as it helps the channel greatly. Okay, now, part of the patter from English politicians surrounds a narrative of, one, how the Irish politicians have been manipulated by the EU, then two, how the Irish politicians should mind their own business, and then finally three, how the Irish should join the UK in effect against the EU, and finally, four, Irish politicians and the EU are damaging the Good Friday Agreement. Now, in short, we've been through the complete gambit. However, the Irish politicians know full well that the voters in the UK couldn't care less about Ireland, which is understandable, but also, unfortunately, do not care diddly squat about any Good Friday Agreement, and are as concerned with that as they are with the eradication of the dodo. Voters in the UK need to be reminded that the violence that we saw was not limited to Belfast. Now, I do not mean that in any threatening manner. I mean that in a practical manner. I mean that from a Birmingham manner, Manchester, London, Brighton, Downing Street, Gibraltar, Germany, Holland, etc. The list of UK targets was European-wide and not just confined to Belfast. Let's listen to how the BBC's view of the Republic of Ireland was received by the Irish government. Here's a 55-second clip of Jon Snow of the BBC.
A final thought to you, if I may. Britain is hugely important to your economy, obviously. It accounts for 50% of exports from the Republic. It's worth, 65 billion euros a year, sustains over 100,000 jobs, and so on. Massively important. Therefore, there has to be an argument, doesn't there, that says, instead of Dublin telling this country that we have to stay within the single market, etc., within the customs union, etc., why doesn't the Republic of Ireland leave the European Union and throw in their lot with country?
Well, firstly, I need to clarify statistics. Maybe years ago our exports were at that figure of 50%, but our exports in total to the UK are now about 13-14%. Yes, certain industries and in agriculture that is higher, but it is 13 to 14%, 33% of our market is with the other 500 million people in the rest of the European Union. We have spent 45 years working with the UK in developing the European Union and a shared future for all of us. We don't want Brexit. We don't want the UK to leave because of that close relationship and partnership, and what we're trying to do is to make sure that in that future relationship moving forward that we have that same close relationship. But obviously if the UK are insisting on leaving the market and the customs union, it makes it that more difficult. We want a deal, we want a withdrawal agreement, we want to be able to work with the UK moving forward, but suggest that we should leave, 92% of Irish people last year said that they wanted Ireland to remain as of the European Union, and in fact since Brexit that figure has gotten only bigger.
Now, despite the confrontational rhetoric, one might expect many in the UK know that the Irish are not, after all, willing nor feel obliged to doff their caps and tug their forelocks, as they kind of bow before their Westminster peers. But then, in this 55-second clip, we hear that all the Irish, perhaps, solution would be to be microchipped.
I heard some of the earlier saying we can go off number plate recognition.
Yes, they were talking twaddle, mate. Yeah, absolute twaddle. So how's it going to work?
The only other solution is, if that's the case, that you go off microchip properly, so you microchip the population, so you know who's in there.
Well, there we go. So you're gonna. What if they don't want to be microchipped? Is it going to be compulsory?
Well, that's it.
So your answer is, now that we're really getting to the crux of it, and your insight into the mindset of the people of two countries, one of which you visited 20 years ago, we need to compulsorily microchip all of them. What are you talking about? You think that the British government should force the Irish government to have a referendum on something they don't want to have a referendum on? And the alternative is to put microchips in them all because you went there 20 years ago and you've got an insight into their mindset built upon your knowledge of football in Glasgow. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think this gone for you, Peter?
I'd say about 7.
Now, despite this claptrap, the Irish have indeed been crafty. Within days of Brexit, Niall Burgess, who was Secretary General of the Department of Foreign Affairs, was on the move. And the work he had done has since been recognised as being completely instrumental in allowing Simon Coveney to ensure that the Republic of Ireland's agenda on the Good Friday Agreement was front and centre of any and all Brexit negotiations. In my honest opinion, it really was a case of the tail wagging the dog. And Coveney, who was appointed Minister for Foreign Affairs with the specific portfolio of Brexit negotiations at the end of 2016-2017, ensconced Ireland's interest within the EU administration and within the US administration, while the UK were flapping around, from David Davis to Boris Johnson to the Oompa Loompa. Okay? The other thing that has been pursued with much vigour was the fishing rights of the French trawlers in UK coastal waters. Let us remember that several trade negotiators reminded the UK voters that most of the fish that the British people ate is not caught in British waters, and that most of the fish that is caught in British waters is consumed in Europe. Now, despite this being hammered home time and time again, the UK mainstream media deliberately chose to ignore it. They constantly referred to the great British fish, blah, blah, blah. George Eustace, despite being told by his own officials that the bivalve mollusk industry was screwed, just ignored it along with the mainstream media. He again ignored it even when the EU Fisheries Commissioner wrote to the various fish producers and made the rules clear. He even went on to claim, after these events took place, that the EU were acting in bad faith, in some sort of underhanded manner. All of this was contained within a report commissioned by his own department. He knew all of the information. Prior to all of that, the UK relied on Bojo's efforts to negotiate with the EU, who had far greater experience. Predictably, of course, Boris resigned his position and began to prepare his own personal campaign to be elected as the new PM, which, let's face it, has been, along with keeping the Conservative Party together, his only success. The problem with this track record is that he achieved little else by ways of benefits to the UK voters. And subsequently, he threw the British people directly under the Boris self-gratification bus. Not the Brexit bus, his own self-gratification bus. Britain has since that time, lost all of our credibility. And this is something that the people of the UK need to be aware of. Okay, the Irish, on the other hand, have gained in credibility. Boris and the UK have become the laughing stock of the rest of the world, and this was made patently obvious during the recent G7 and especially during the recent G20. Nobody wanted to be seen with Boris. The big players ostracized the UK. They've had enough of the BS. This isn't a game. This affects real lives of every single man, of every single woman, and of every single child born and raised in the UK. The current UK government, who all hail the great Boris because of the majority delivered, will soon turn on him. That we know from the recent Paterson affair. And there is little doubt on that, okay? But that doesn't change anything. The major players know that Boris is a chameleon. They also know that Boris is just rolling with the punches being delivered by the powerful ERG within the Conservative Party. They know that when Boris is removed, the position will be taken over by somebody else who needs to do the exact same thing, but perhaps with a little more panache than Boris was able to demonstrate. Which brings us to today. When Boris goes, the foreign governments are going to have the same approach to the UK. Okay? Prior to recent events, the only ally the UK had in Europe was the Republic of Ireland. And the UK has been pissing all over every other member of the EU. And to add salt to the wounds, has been doing the same to the US, as we discuss in the video with regard to the corruption scandal in Kurdistan. Now, Maros Sefcovic is now unfortunately out of bullets. It's highly unlikely that he, even if he wanted to, can give a single millimeter, or let's keep it an imperial, can give an inch more. He simply will not get the support of the French nor any other EU nation that has coastal waters, as we saw recently in the joint letter to Sefcovic and the EU Commissioner on Fishing. All of this leads to a hardening of positions, which is exactly what I said yesterday. Thanks for watching. See you on the flip side. If you've got a comment to make, please make them politely, okay? The emails were a bit rough, but much appreciated nonetheless. Y'all take care.